take few minutes.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Team, who has started recording?
It's me.
हाँ, अभी थोड़ा सा stop कर लो.
Okay, sure.
हाँ. Dr. Prakash Rao.
A very good evening, and all present here. I, Harsh, from Symbiosis Law School, Noida, on behalf of Biodiversity Cell of Symbiosis International University, extend a warm welcome to you all on Sunday's special session. Today we have with us Dr. Girish Jathar, Ornithologist and Deputy Director Research at Srushti Conservation Foundation, to talk on a very interesting topic, which is Owls of India and their conservation. Sir has been working in areas such as ecosystem-based adaptation, climate change, sustainable development, and landscape ecology. He is a member of Species Survival Commission and Bustard Specialist Group IUCN and Senior Research Associate Global Owl Project USA. He has more than 20 years of experience in threatened birds, ecology, environmental information systems, bird monitoring, satellite tracking, and ecological night modeling. Sir is currently a visiting faculty at Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai, and Bharati Vidyapeeth Institute, Environment Education and Research, Pune. Girish Sir was awarded with Ravisankaran Fellowship of Inlaks India Foundation in 2010. He also received the prestigious Young Ornithologist State Award in 2012. At present, he is Governing Council member of Salim Center for Ornithology and Natural History, Coimbatore. Today, Sir is going to take us through an interesting journey of evolution of owls, the special character of owls, breeding, their calls, threats to the species, and more importantly, conservation of owls. After Sir will complete the session, the floor will be open for question hour round. And if anyone is having questions in between, they can put it in the chat section. With this note, I welcome our chief speaker, Mr. Girish Jathar, to take the charge of today's evening and delight us with his knowledge.
Thank you very much, Harsh. I will now share my screen. Just give me a feedback whether the screen is visible or not. Is it visible?
Yes, sir, it is visible, sir.
Yeah. So today I'm going to talk about owls of India and their conservation. And before we start, I'll just like to share some memories of my friend, Mr. Dharmaraj Patil, who recently, unfortunately, he passed away. And both of us worked on owls. That is why I'm sharing this memory of his. So taking his memory forward, we will go to explore the worlds of owl. What are owls? Everybody knows they are actually the birds, but they are a group of nocturnal birds, which are similar to diurnal birds of prey. That means eagle and hawks and the falcons. All these are birds of prey, and they are active during the daytime. However, the owls are active in the night. So they are nocturnal birds of prey. In behavior and morphology, and even in anatomy, they are ecological counterparts of the diurnal birds of prey. That means their behavior, their morphology, their anatomy is equal to the diurnal birds of prey. This phenomenon is basically called as a convergence in biology. That is how you can say a group of birds is active during day. They hunt during day. Different species. Similarly, the owls are only the counterparts. They are nocturnal, and they do the similar kind of a service. Let's see how they have evolved, and you will be surprised to know that they evolved much before human beings came into existence on this earth. So they evolved about 65 million years ago, and the human beings are on this earth only 2.5 million years ago. So the wise owl is much elder than us and much more interesting species, much more to share with us. So most of the owls, they actually evolved during Cretaceous period, and the oldest known fossil was discovered in Colorado, in USA, about 58 million years ago. So there is a difference between the dating time, because we do not know how how many years ago they actually evolved. So there is a range, kind of a range, like 60 million years ago to the 65 million years ago to 50 million years ago. That is the range. But the fossil which we have got is about 58 million years ago. And this owl was named after a scientist, Wetmore. So the name of this owl is Ogicopteryx wetmorei. This fossil is similar to the existing group of owls, which is a Strix, which I'm going to talk more about in the presentation. But this owl was a really giant. It was 3.5 feet tall, and it used to hunt big animals. And more than 15 million years ago, some of the genus which are still extant or still exist, like Bubo and Strix, they evolved during that period, and we are going to see them more about them in subsequent slides. Now, ecosystems and habitat. Owls mostly live, they cover almost the entire world. That is what I would say, right from the deserts to the tropical rainforest and grasslands to Arctic tundra. They are everywhere. The snowy owl is adapted for the Arctic and subarctic region. You can see the picture, the right hand side down picture is a snowy owl, and the upper one is a barn owl, which is a cosmopolitan, almost found everywhere in the world. Now you can see the habitats. They live in the grasslands, scrublands. You can see here, my cursor is here on the left hand side. So these are the scrubland and grassland habitats. They live here. They live in desert conditions. They also live in tropical rainforests, and they also live in Arctic tundra. So these are kind of habitats the owls have covered. Let's see which are the largest and which is the smallest. The blackish-stone fish owl, which is the largest owl in the world, about 70 centimeters in height. So it's again a fish owl feeding on fish, but it lives in an Arctic tundra. You can find this owl in Japan, North Japan, and parts of South and North Korea and Russia. Then we have an elf owl, which is found in Central America. But this is the smallest owl. It is only 14 centimeters tall. You can just catch this owl in your hand. Now let's see which is the largest and smallest in India. Eurasian eagle owl is the largest one in India, about 60 centimeters, and the collared owlet is a 17 centimeters. Now you can see the collared guy has holding a collared owlet in his hand, and now you imagine this is 17 centimeter, but the elf owl is a 14 centimeter, so it's a much smaller than the collared owlet. Food and hunting. All owls are carnivorous. They eat various things, right from the invertebrates to vertebrates, spiders, insects, fish, mammal, everything. Everything is there. And owls are adapted to two modes of feeding. You can see here, the one owl is sitting here. This is called as a sit and wait strategy. And this is active hunting, where the short-eared owl is holding a mouse in its beak and is flying. So they actually hawk the insects and the birds and the mammals, and then they capture them while flying. So these are the two main modes of feeding. Unlike other diurnal birds of prey, they do not feed on the carrion or the maybe a dead animal. They don't feed on the dead animal. They kill the animal and then they eat. But how we can study the owl's food? So owls pH or the digestive juices are not so strong, so they cannot digest bones, they cannot digest hairs, they cannot digest nails. That's why what happens when they eat, they digest the muscle part, and after digesting it, whatever remains they actually expel out or they vomit. So this is called as a pellet. They form a pellet, and if you analyze this pellet, then you get all these kind of things. So here you can see a spider is eaten. Here you can see an insect called beetle, and the grasshopper is here. And similarly, it also eats some vertebrates like skink. Then the lizards. You can see a bird beak and bird vertebra here. Then shrew, a rat, and the mouse. So all these items are derived from the pellets of owl. You can study them. You can actually find a different trends. If you analyze these pellets throughout the year, then you will be able to find out which animal is eaten in which period of time. So you can get a very nice profile how they feed and how seasonally the food changes. So this kind of very interesting information can be derived, and even some scientists from Pune, they have actually analyzed pellets, fossil pellets of owl. And one of the friends of mine who works in a Deccan college, he actually studied the rodent population about 50,000 years ago using the fossil pellets of owl. So that is very interesting. You can actually peek into the history long back and see what was the food of owls during that time of period. So all these kind of interesting things can happen when you start studying these pellets and the owls and some other birds. Now, breeding of owls, they have a very strong nest site fidelity. Some owls pair for life. They most of the owls nest in cavities on ground, even in burrows. There are some owls called burrowing owl, which found in Central and North America. They actually burrow their nests in the on the ground. They use ground squirrels burrows, and they lay their eggs there. So that is very interesting. Most of the owls, they nest in cavities. None of owl build their own nest. So that is the very interesting part of it. Male feeds young and female bird and takes care, and female takes care of the young ones. Some owls show reverse sexual dimorphism where males are smaller than the females. There are some evolutionary significance to that particular characteristics. That is what I would say. I forgot to put a couple of slides, but that was about the vision of the owls. Unfortunately, those slides I have skipped, but I will talk about them. Owls have their eyes fixed in their eye sockets. Like their eye sockets are bony, and the eyes are fixed into the eye sockets. That is why the owls cannot move their eyeballs. So to compensate that, what they do, they move their necks. And that is why evolutionary, they are able to move their necks about 270 degree. We can only see 180 degree, but owl actually can turn its neck 270 degree. That is why by looking from both the sides, it can actually view more than 360 degree. So that is the specialty of owl. Similarly, they have a very interesting feather structure. The feathers are the edges of their feathers are combed. So when they fly, they actually do not make any sound. If the owl flies over your head, you will not be able to hear it. So that is how the feathers of owl have evolved. The reason behind that, because it hunts in the night, and the major prey of the owl is rats. So in order to deceive the rat, it has to have the noiseless flight. So that is a kind of evolution the owls have done. Now let's see how many owls, species of owls there are in the world. So 238 species of owls are there. Two major families are there, Titonidae and Strigidae. In Titonidae family, we have around 16 species, and in Strigidae, we have 222 species. In Indian subcontinent, we have 38 owl species and 59 subspecies of owls. Let's see what we have in India. In India, we have 38 species, Indian subcontinent 38 species and 36 species in India. Of them, 34 are resident, 4 are migratory. There are 4 species which I will show you in subsequent slides. 7 owls are endemic, and of them 5 are found only on Andaman and Nicobar, nowhere else in the world, and 2 are found on the mainland.
Girish, can you tell them what is endemic?
Yeah, endemic, that means a species which is confined to a certain area, which is not found elsewhere in the world apart from that particular area. That is what we call as endemic. So I'll show you the pictures as well as let's see their calls, and I will talk about their distribution as well. So we have one globally threatened species, that is forest owlet, and one near threatened species, that is Nicobar's copse owl, and we'll see them. Now we start with the Titonidae family. In Titonidae family, we have 2 groups, like barn owls and the fodulous owls. So we have 3 species of in a barn owl group. We have 3 species. the barn owl, which is a cosmopolitan species, which is found all over the world. And even in India, we find them everywhere. If anybody from Mumbai is here, so I will tell a very interesting story about barn owl. I would say in India, the barn owl density is the highest in Mumbai. You won't believe, but there are a lot of barn owls in Mumbai. Especially if you go to the Bhaikhada area or Mumbadali Road, every building at least have 1 or 2 barn owls. So that much density is there, and that is because the rodent population is very high in Mumbai. So that is the reason the barn owls are there everywhere in Mumbai. Then we have a very interesting species called Andaman barn owl, which is endemic bird, which is only found on Andaman Islands, not even on Nicobar, only on Andaman Island. We'll see this Andaman barn owl. And then eastern grass owl, which is another very rare bird for India. It is found in Brahmaputra river basin, in grasslands of Brahmaputra, and similarly in some parts of Western Ghats, especially where there are Shola grasslands, and there are a couple of places in Kerala where you can find this eastern grass owl. Very interesting species. And we will hear the call of barn owl. A lot of people actually complained about the call of barn owl because the call is really kind of a screeching call and everybody doesn't like it. I'll play this call. So this is a call of a barn owl, but when they start emitting this call incessantly, then it becomes very difficult to sleep also, and they call in the night because they are nocturnal birds. And the calling actually happens because when they breed, their chicks keep calling for food, and that is really irritating call. But we have to look at the positive side of the barn owl because it actually provides a kind of ecosystem service, which is amazing, and I will talk more about it in the later part of the presentation. Now we have bay owls. These are Phodilus groups, bay owls, and we have 2 species, and very interesting bird, very rare. There are 2 species, Ceylon bay owl, which is found in southern Western Ghats, and we have Oriental bay owl, which is found in the Northeast India. And again, this Oriental bay owl is spread across the Southeast Asian countries, but it has a very interesting call. Owls are calling each other. Very interestingly, this bird is nocturnal, but the speciality of this bird is to hunt down the flower peckers. The main food of this owl is a flower pecker, and flower pecker is a diurnal bird, but this is a nocturnal bird. What it does actually, it searches for the roosting flower peckers, and it goes in the night and catches them and eats them. So wherever you found heads of flower picker somewhere on the ground, if you see, it can be a heap of bird heads. So if you find that, you can make out whether wake out the bay owls are there, because their major food is flower picker. So it is actually a gruesome sight that you will find a heap of bird heads, and the culprit is a bay owl, but they have their own role in the ecosystem. So that is why the bay owls are different. They are very beautiful looking owls. Then we have a very big group called scops owl, and we have a lot of species here in the scops owl group. We have a mountain scops owl, which is found only in Himalayan foothills and parts of middle Himalayas. And this is a mountain scops owl on your left-hand side. And we have Andaman scops owl, which is again a rare species, only found in Andaman Island, nowhere else in the world. Unfortunately, I don't have a call of Andaman scops owl, but we can hear a call of a mountain scops owl. You won't believe that this is a call of an owl. This is so sweet. And this bird, again, finding mountain scops owl is a bit difficult. Only because of its call, we can actually know that the bird is there. Otherwise, in Himalayan evergreen forest, it is very difficult to locate this particular species. Then we have two more scops owl, which are much easier to see, relatively common. And wherever there is a wooded country, we can find these species. So the collared scops owl, again found in Himalayan foothills and northeast India. The collared scops owl, you can find them right from the Jammu and Kashmir up to the Arunachal Pradesh, all states of northeast India. But this is a kind of a hill bird. It found in mountains and good forest. But in Assam, you can find them everywhere, even in the plain level forest, even near the villages. And then we have an Indian scops owl. So rest of the India, you can find this Indian scops owl. They are everywhere. Wherever there is a wooded country, you will be able to see this bird. And their call is more or less similar. So I have put the call of Indian scops owl here. They mainly feed on insects, mostly on invertebrates, and sometimes they feed on the mouse and maybe sometimes on the lizards. So that is their main food. Then we have two interesting birds. Both these birds are migratory, the pallid scops owl and the Eurasian scops owl. Both of them come from the Eurasian region. Pallid scops owl, again, you can say that Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, these areas where the pallid scops owl can be found very easily. But the Eurasian scops owl has a wider range. It can found from the Western Europe to the Eastern Russia. That's why it is called as a Eurasian scops owl. Both these species come down to India during the winter, and they look very similar, very confusing to identify, and they don't even call during their migration. So it's very difficult to identify them. Pallid scops owl you can generally find during winter months on the west coast of India, up to even up to Kerala. But most of the sightings are confined to the southern Gujarat and northern Maharashtra. Similarly, Eurasian scops owl have a similar kind of a range in Western India. Let's play the call. The call of a pallid scops owl. And this is the call of Eurasian scops owl. Very interesting call. Again, a melodious one. And this is very interesting bird called Nicobar scops owl. This is only found on Nicobar Islands, nowhere else in the world. So again, the range of this species is confined to the Nicobar Islands, and again on Nicobar Islands there is only certain kind of habitat which is called as a mangrove forest. The forest which is near the sea or estuary, where the river meets the sea, it's a kind of a habitat, or the water is mildly saline, and the mangroves grow in that particular type of forest. And this bird is found only in the mangrove and coastal forest of Nicobar Island. So that is why again this becomes a very special bird. There are only two pictures of this bird in the world. This was taken by one of my friend, SP Vijay Kumar. So he actually got a very good picture of this bird. And this bird is named after Humayun Abdul Ali. You may be knowing Salim Ali. So Salim Ali's uncle was Humayun Abdul Ali. He was also a bird taxonomist. And Dr. Pamela Rasmussen named this bird after Humayun Abdul Ali. That is why the name of this bird is Otus alias. Alias is in remembrance of Humayun Abdul Ali. So this is a Nicobar scops owl. Unfortunately, we don't have a call of this. Now we have three owls here. The forest owlet, on which I did my PhD work in Central India. Then we have a common spotted owlet, which is found almost everywhere in India except the high mountains. And the little owl, which is a bird of a high mountains, or I would say a cold desert. You can find this bird only at, above the 10,000 feet, wherever there is a snow. So These are three birds. Forest owlet, again confined to the central India and parts of northern Western Ghats. This is a rare species. It is considered as endangered, but now our recent assessment actually says that it's not that rare, but it is still wherever there is a dry deciduous forest in central India and northern Western Ghats, you can find this bird. The call of this bird is very interesting. If someone knows the call of a quail bird, it is very similar to the quail. That is the call of a forest owlet. We play the call of spotted owlet today morning. Shilpa madam and we saw this bird in Pune, on Talzai. Maybe there on your Symbiosis campus as well. But this is again a night bird. So evening it emits call, and you may be aware of this call. This is a call of a spotted owlet, and again little owl. You have to go to either Ladakh or North Sikkim to see this bird. Again, very interesting sound. So now, interestingly, the forest owlet and spotted owlet are sympatric at a couple of places where they share the same habitat, but their food is different. And the speciality of forest owlet is it's a diurnal owl. I talked about the most of the nocturnal owls, but the forest owlet is a diurnal owl. It is active during day, unlike other owls. And the possible reason for that, because where it lives, the forest owlet, it shares its habitat with 9 other owl species. So there is an intense competition between the owls in central India and northern Western Ghats. To avoid that, it is possible that the forest owlet has decided to live a diurnal way of life. So the forest owlet is diurnal. Spotted owlet is nocturnal. A little owl is a kind of a crepuscular. It is active during day and night because it lives at a high altitude, and nights are really frozen over there. So it can be active during day as well as during the night. So this was about the 3 species of owlet. Now we have an interesting owlet. This group is again owlets, but the genus is Glossidium. And these are the jungle owlets and the barred owlets. So jungle owlet is again a very relatively a common bird species. Wherever there is a forest, you can find the jungle owlet there. It is spread across throughout the India except the Himalayas and Northeast India. Otherwise, you can find jungle owlet everywhere. And then we have Asian barred owlet, which is found in the parts of Himalayan foothills and Northeast India. So if you imagine a map of India, the Himalayan foothills, Himalayas, and Northeast India is covered by Asian barred owlet, and the rest of the India is covered by jungle owlet. But there are some very interesting areas in West Bengal and Sikkim where you can find both the birds together. Now we just hear their calls. So jungle owlet. It is likely that you have on Symbiosis campus, you have a jungle owlet.
But we haven't recorded yet, means we haven't cited one.
Okay. It is possible because it's a forested area. So it is likely that you have this species there. Now we go to the smallest owl of India, and this is a collared owlet. Now you see the bird is sitting here and it is looking towards us. But when it looks in opposite direction, you can see the black marks here. Being a small owl, it has predators, and to actually watch out or keep track of predators, this owl have evolved this kind of markings. So if suppose a predator approaches, then it confuses the owl or this part of the head as a face. So generally, none of the predators actually attack from the front; they always attack from behind. So that is why this particular owl has evolved with this kind of a structure on its on the back side of its head. So this is very interesting. and it is having a very interesting call as well. But this species is again found in Himalayan foothills and Northeast India, nowhere else in the rest of the India. Very melodious song, and unfortunately this bird is harassed by the big birds as well as the small birds. Small birds actually keep harassing this bird throughout the day. Again, this bird is a diurnal. It hunts during the daytime and it feeds on the small birds. That is why small birds keep mobbing this particular owl every time. This bird is again used by the bird trappers as a decoy. So they bring this bird, live bird, and keep it there. A lot of birds come to mob this particular owl, and then the hunters or the poachers, they catch the other smaller birds. So that is how this bird is used. Very interesting, very beautiful bird. Then we have a group called hawk owls. Now we have Hume's hawk owl, Andaman hawk owl, and brown hawk owl. Now, Hume's hawk owl and Andaman hawk owl are found only on Andaman Islands. Andaman hawk owl, again, you can find them on Andaman and Nicobar. Hume's hawk owl, you can find only on Andaman Islands. But again, this is again a habitat specialist. You can find them wherever there are caves because it feeds on the swiftlets and the bats. So that is why Hume's hawk owl, though it is found on Andaman Island, again, it is confined to the areas wherever there are caves. Andaman hawk owl, again, relatively common species on Andaman Island, and brown hawk owl can be rest of the India on the mainland. I play the calls. Hume's hawk owl. This is a call of a Hume's hawk owl. Play the Andaman hawk owl. Sorry. This is a call of an Andaman hawk owl, and this is called call of a brown hawk owl. So the brown hawk owl and Hume's hawk owl have a similar calls. Earlier, it used to be a subspecies of a brown hawk owl, but now they have split this bird into two because they look very different. Now we have a group called wood owls: brown wood owl, mottled wood owl, and Himalayan wood owl. So we have three wood owls. Brown wood owl, you can find them throughout the India. Wherever there is a good forest, they are there. Mottled wood owl is endemic to India. It is only found in India, nowhere else in the world. And they also live in a kind of a dry deciduous forest. Brown wood owl you can find in dry deciduous, evergreen, semi-evergreen, all types of forest. Mottled wood owl is again a species of a open wooded country. And now you see, very interesting, the pattern, feather pattern actually matches with the trees. Okay, so it is possible that this mottled wood owl have evolved to match the background of the tree. So this is called crocodile bark tree, and the mottled wood owl actually matches or merges. If suppose the bird sits like this, it is very difficult to locate when it is sitting. So that is very interesting part about this particular bird, endemic, and they feed on a slightly larger prey, rats and the lizards, sometimes on the birds. This is a two birds calling each other, brown wood owl. This is a brown wood owl. Now I will play the call of mottled wood owl. This is a really little scary call. Unfortunately, I don't have a call of Himalayan wood owl. Otherwise, it's really Himalayan wood owl is much more sweeter than both the brown wood owl and the mottled wood owl. Himalayan hawk owl only found in Himalayas, in upper Himalayas. So its name itself is a very interesting. Strix nivicola. Nivicola means the bird which lives in the snow. So this is a Himalayan wood owl. You can generally find them above 7,000 feet and sometimes up to 12,000 feet. So sometimes you can see this species at in the snow. That is what why it is called as a Himalayan wood owl. Then we have largest owls, eagle owls of India. We have one Indian eagle owl, which is there on the Symbiosis Lavre campus. And we have Eurasian eagle owl. Eurasian eagle owl is found in Himalayas, and rest of the India you can find Indian eagle owl. It's the call of Indian eagle owl. Actually, it sounds like bubo, but this Eurasian eagle owl is much sounds like a bubo. So that's why their genus is called as a bubo. Unfortunately, the Indian eagle owl is a really exploited species because it is used for various black magic and all those kind of misconceptions. So I will show some pictures in the subsequent slides. But this plays a very important role in the ecosystem. It feeds mainly on the rats. You may be knowing the bandicoot rat, or we call it as a goose. Sometimes it actually kills the fawns of deer. So it has its role in ecology. It's a top predator. That is what I would say. We have a dusky eagle owl and spot-billed eagle owl. Dusky eagle owl is again a bird which is generally found near the waters, the forested areas where there is a good amount of water. You can find dusky eagle owl. It looks, the color is dusky. That is why it is called as a dusky eagle owl. And we have spot-billed eagle owl, which is found in Himalayas, in parts of central India and Western Ghats, but it needs a certain kind of a dense forest, and the ecosystem should be undisturbed. And this spot-billed eagle owl has a lot of stories in Himalayas. It is actually considered as a devil bird in Himalaya, and the call of bird itself is a really terrible. That is why it is called as a devil bird in Himalayas. Dusky eagle owl will just listen to the call of this bird. Kind of croaking sound like a crow. And in the background you can hear the call of frogs, because this bird lives near the water. That is why you can see those who know the ecosystems, the well-wooded, well-watered ecosystems, the background noise is generally the frogs and the insects which live near the water. So you can hear that. A spot-billed eagle owl, very interesting call. Unfortunately, I don't have all the calls of this bird because it emits at least 6 different calls, and each call is different. But if you hear this call in the night, in the middle of the night in the forest, it's really a bone-chilling kind of a call. Sometimes it sounds like some human being is hooting. So again, we have another very interesting group is a fish owl. They generally live near the water, and they exclusively feed on crabs, fish, and whichever animals which are close to the water ecosystem, I would say. Now you see their legs are naked. Rest of the owls have a good number of feathers on their claws, but this owl doesn't have any feathers on its feet and claws, because they have to deal with the crabs and the fishes. So that's why if their toes and claws are feathered, then it becomes very difficult for them. Unfortunately, I don't have a call of all the birds, only have a brown fish owl. But tawny fish owl and buffy fish owl you found in parts of Northeast India. The tawny fish owl, again, you can find in some parts of Himalayas and Northeast India, but buffy fish owl only in Northeast India and parts of Bangladesh. Brown fish owl, or rest of the India. Call of brown fish owl. Next slide. Then we have a boreal owl. This owl only found in parts of Jammu and Kashmir and parts of Himachal Pradesh, nowhere else. It's a high altitude living bird. Very call, very interesting call. Then we have Asia owls. Again, these two owls are migratory. Long-eared owl is found in parts of Jammu and Kashmir, and short-eared owl in the rest of India. But both of these birds are migratory. They come to India during winter months, and then they go back. I'll play the calls of long-eared owl. Very harsh sound. And short-eared owl is a owl of a grassland. The long-eared owl is a kind of an owl which lives in a forested area. Very call of short-eared owl. Again, it's a harsh sound. Very interesting bird, although, because in Maharashtra, you can find them in Vidarbha region and Marathwada region. Very aggressive bird also. If you go close to its territory, it will directly attack you.
And they migrate from which place?
They again migrate from Eurasia, Eastern Europe and parts of Russia. Now we are in the last part of our presentation. So why owls are so important? I would say they are real friends of farmer, because we call snake as a friend of farmer, but I don't think so that is correct. The owl is a best friend of a farmer. That is what I would say, because one barn owl eats more than 1,000 mice in a year, 3 mice every day. If we see the exponential growth of mice, then I would say the one owl actually keeps control on around 4.5 lakh rodents. And this is a very important thing, because it provides a kind of an ecosystem service without any cost. So we use rodenticides to control the rodents, but if we have owls in place, then we don't need a rodenticide, because one barn owl, maybe in 10 years, it actually controls the population of 4.5 lakh rodents. And just imagine, one rodent is around 20 grams and the rat is around 100 grams. So the mice and the rat, they have to eat about the same of their weight every day. So you just calculate that 100-gram rat into 365 into the weight of grains. So that much grain they require to survive. So that is why I call them a best friend of a farmer. They are also top predators in the food chain. So they actually maintain the balance in the web of diversity. Their habitats are sink of carbon and storage of subsurface water, and their habitat provides major ecosystem services such as arresting soil erosion, climate regulation, and oxygen generation. I already talked about subsurface water maintenance. So all these things are there. In the smaller owls actually feast on insects. So they provide a ecosystem service which is free of cost. We need not to pay for their service. So that is why the owls are very important. If the owls are not there, their habitat is not there, then it is a real existential threat for the human beings. Now let's see what kind of threats the owls have. The habitat destruction is the major threat. The road development in the forest, the illegal timber logging, the forest fire, and uncontrolled grazing in the forest. So these are the reasons why the habitat of the owls is shrinking everywhere, and that is impacting very badly to the ecosystem of owl and the owl itself. So habitat destruction was one threat. Use of pesticide, insecticide, and rodenticides, uh, because when we use these things for to save our crops, the prey species of the owl dies, and sometimes it happens, though owls don't eat a decaying food, but if suppose the insect or the mouse is laced with the pesticide or the rodenticide, it is immobile, and it is likely that the owl will go and catch and eat it. That can have a very negative impact on the physiology of owl, and the population of owl may go into a negative spiral or decline rapidly if these things continue. So this is another thing. And the last thing is owl in wildlife trade. Unfortunately, what happens because of the misconception about owls, a lot of owls are being caught and killed and sacrificed for n number of myths and misconceptions we human beings have about them. And one of my friends, he has actually published this report from Traffic India. So most of the owl species are there in the owl trade. You won't believe, not a single owl is left by human beings. All the owl species are there in the wildlife trade. And you can see a tribal woman is sitting here, and she is selling Indian eagle owl here. It's a dried specimen. And when I asked her why you are selling this, so she said it is having a great importance in our culture. So for black magic, this is a kind of a requirement. And the skin of owl, though it is very thin, it is used to made a damru. And the I would say the people who actually practice witchcraft, they use this damru for kind of a black magic and all foolish things. I'll show you some picture. So a tribal man caught this owl, and they sacrificing owl will bring you some magical powers. And very sorry to say, but most of the larger owls are actually sold in the market, especially in Gujarat during the Diwali. And the owls are sacrificed on the eve of Diwali. So if you sacrifice them, there is a misconception that the owl, if you sacrifice the owl, the money will remain in your home. And the reason behind that, because owl is a vehicle of goddess Lakshmi. So in one part of India, especially Northeast and West Bengal, the owl is considered as a vehicle of goddess Lakshmi. But on the other hand side, on the western part, they kill the owl because the Lakshmi should not leave your home. So that is a really paradox, but that's the reality. Now, what we can do to protect the owls? We can do some very good education awareness program. Right now, also I am doing an education and awareness program. Promote owl as a symbol of deity. We should actually promote the owl as a symbol of goddess Lakshmi. A restriction on use of pesticide and rodenticides wherever there are a good number of owls. Involving local people in the protection of habitat and nesting sites. Strengthening livelihood of the people living in areas where the threatened species exist, like forest owlet or odorless owls. If these species are there, then we should actually incentivize the local people with some kind of a livelihood which is related to the owls. So that's how we can protect them. Now, owls in Indian culture, very interestingly, I talked about the east and west part of the country, but in West Bengal and northeastern states, the owl is really considered as a good, and it's called as a vehicle of goddess Lakshmi. You can see the pictures as well. The goddess Lakshmi is there, and here there is an owl. Here the goddess Lakshmi is sitting on the owl. So, and it is called as a Lokhi Pecha. Lokhi means Lakshmi, Pecha means owl. So that is how the owl is already there in our culture, and it is really having a very significant importance in our entire culture. And we have to promote this instead of some people sacrificing owl on the eve of Diwali, especially on the Lakshmi Pujan. So instead of that, we should actually promote how conserving owl can bring you wealth. So that could be the possible way out to safeguard the species. And some of the pictures are from these people. None of the picture is mine, except the forest owlet. And I got all these pictures from some websites also, and the sound credits are from the Zenocanto, eBird, Global Owl Project, and these are some institutes which I would like to acknowledge them. Yeah, thank you very much. And if you have some questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Girish. Oh, that was a wonderful, exhibition kind of. We never got to see all the owls of India at one go. So, thank you very much. So, students, you can unmute yourself and ask questions if you have any. And even we have given a feedback link in the chat box. So, meantime, when question answer session is going on, please take a minute and fill it. So, it would be nice if you fill that feedback form. So, yeah, any question? Please go ahead. So I think I'll shoot my question meantime when people are must be thinking. Uh, Girish, you mentioned that owls may be their call may be disturbing for people when, especially barn owl, because it is cosmopolitan owl. It's staying with us in the buildings. So even I myself, I hear this owl every day, almost every day in the morning, like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. I am being a working in wildlife or being a nature lover, I can ignore it. But people do, get irritated and all. So what, even in our campus, where there are two hostels newly constructed, and every other day students keep on sending me images of barn owl, and some of them they like it, then they said cute and this and all, and some they are afraid of their calls and all. So apart from awareness, what we can do to just make them tolerable about this urban problem, what we can do else? It's a usual day to day, actually, we can say a problem, what we can do.
Yeah, the only thing we can do is that we can provide a good nesting box to the barn owls so that they live maybe on the top of the building. But that again, it's very difficult. We have to do some experiments, like placing a nest box where the owl can sit and it can lay its eggs. Most of the times, what happens? They lay their eggs near the AC vents or the wherever there is AC, or especially the wherever the drainage pipes are there. So if we install a nest box and they accept the nest box, then this problem can get resolved. At least the sound would not be so disturbing. But again, it depends on the will of owl, which place it it finds safe and secure. It will select. The other thing is that you have to tolerate. The education and awareness is more important. It is possible that you can tolerate this call. It's not like it is intolerable. The fear is the main problem. If we can actually tolerate our dog and our cat, why not the owl? So that is why what my opinion is. But experimenting with nest box is possible. Maybe at your Symbiosis Lovely campus, we can install nest box, a big nest box. If owl accepts it, the half of the problem will get resolved.
Okay, let's see how and what we can do. Thanks. Yes, any questions? People, I think, seeing so many owls, uh, and there must be under, a lot of thought process is going on. So if there are no questions, we can end it here. And if later you want to ask any question and you have any further thoughts about owls, even once I have already discussed with Girish that we really want to do some mapping of our owls in the campus, like we have barn owl, spotted owlet, and Indian eagle owl, which we have already documented them in the campus, and there are some concerns in terms of habitats and new development which is happening continuously in the campus, and how the number, I think it's means we never know, but it may be decreasing, or about barn owl it must be increasing, we don't know, but we really would like to have you to help us, to guide us in future, near future. Yes.
Surely, sure.
Yeah. So with this, we can end the session. Harsh, you can go ahead with vote of thanks.
Uh, Thank you very much, sir. It was a very different session for me also. I would like to thanks not only behalf of Symbiosis Biodiversity Cell, but personally also. As a law student, I have never, indulged in these kinds of sessions. So it was a very different experience for me. Thank you very much. As you discussed things like evolution of owls, that it was before humans. These things we didn't know ever, and like diversity of owls, that such kinds of owls are in India. So thank you very much to enlighten us with your great knowledge and wisdom. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It was nice talking to you.
Thanks, Girish. See you.
Yeah. See you.
I'll stay in touch with you
Yeah,
definitely.
sure, sure. Okay,
Thanks.
bye-bye.
Bye. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
So thanks everyone. Before going, please fill up a feedback form which is in the chat box, and see you on next Sunday on another wonderful session, and have a nice Sunday.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Harsh,
ma'am.
Have a nice day.
Harsh, Shreya, and Malajit, Parth, thanks. Thanks. It was nice working with you too. You gave me